Hello! So today we are going to be talking about making predictions as our first reading strategy. So we have a couple notes to go over. Please make sure that you have your guided notes out in front of you, and we'll have a couple examples to talk about as well. So let's go ahead and get started with making predictions. There are some flowers to brighten your day. So when we're talking about predicting, what you're doing is you are actually combining your background knowledge with the information that you're getting from the text, both before you read and during reading. And what comes out of that, the product is an educated guess about what you think the author will write. So you are predicting before you read as well as during your reading. It should be an ongoing process. Now, there is a difference between fiction and nonfiction predictions. So when we're talking about fiction predictions, that means that you are predicting about the plot of the story. You're making predictions about what you think is going to happen related to the plot and the conflict, the theme, the characters, that type of stuff. But when we're talking about nonfiction predictions, that is when you will anticipate the author's purpose for writing the story or creating the video. Why did they do it? Is it to entertain? Is it to persuade? Is it to explain? Is it to compare and contrast? Is it to inform? And you're also, when you're doing nonfiction predicting, you're thinking about, what am I going to learn from this text? Okay, so the first step of predicting is previewing. Before you do any reading, you always want to preview the information that is available to you. And for some texts, there's going to be pictures, there will be captions, there will be charts, maps, tables of contents, all that good stuff. And for other texts, you might be very limited. So you're just going to rely on background information, what you know about what that author has already written, what you know about other things you've read related to the topic, as well as the title of the story or the text itself. So all good predictions begin with previewing. Okay, so what is previewing? A preview is what you look at or skim in the text before you read, such as, these are things you want to look at. Author information. Are they from Nova Scotia? If so, that might affect the way that they write and the settings that they write about. Are they from Antarctica? Well, that might explain why there's a lot of penguins in their story and why the weather always seems to be extremely cold. You're going to want to look at artwork. You will want to look at pictures. The authors don't necessarily create that artwork and those pictures, but they're there as a supplement to the story. There should be a connection in some way. You want to look at the captions under the pictures, look at the titles and headings. Those are there to organize the information to make it easier for you while you're reading. Make sure that you look at the different text features, whether or not there's bolded words, italicized words, are there pieces of, or like quotes or pieces of information that are pulled out and emphasized on the side. If so, you want to go ahead and preview those. And then look at the charts and diagrams. Again, like pictures, they're there because they relate to the text. And then look at the maps and symbols in the same way. So, like I said, previewing is the first step in the predicting process, which makes sense that previewing leads to predicting. So first, you preview the text. Then, from the information that you previewed, you want to go ahead and make detailed predictions about the text, which means you don't just want to say something like, I predict it's about a boy who loses his dog. That would be an example of a prediction that would not be detailed. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at first a nonfiction text. I was searching the internet looking for something that might be interesting as a nonfiction text for us to preview, and I came to ABC News, and of course you've got this developing news, Kate Middleton in the hospital ready to have the royal baby, which the whole world is, really just waiting on the edge of their seat about, but we don't care about that today. We are looking at this article, which is accompanied by a video, but the article's titled, Caught on Tape, Man Wrestles Shark with Bare Hands. And then underneath here, in this caption, it says, photos of shark wrangler Elliot Sudal pulling shark onto a Nantucket beach have gone viral. Okay, so then if we go down, there's a little bit more information. It says, a daring face-to-face encounter with danger on Nantucket. A young man was battling a 200-pound shark right there on the beach. Okay, now we could go ahead and read this whole thing, but we want to stop before we do that and make a prediction, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and try, using the title, to predict that perhaps this man was close to the edge of the beach, but he was in the water, and maybe he saw this shark coming toward him, because I have heard on the news recently that there are more sharks closer to the shoreline than in the past. And I'm going to predict that this man somehow lured the shark, either intentionally or unintentionally, onto the beach, and then ended up, you know, maybe he was trying to fight it to save other people, or maybe it was just sheer curiosity that led him into the battle with the shark. So at this point, I am interested, and I do want to see if the video will load for us so that we can watch that.
A daring face-to-face encounter with danger on Nantucket. A young man making waves for battling a 200-pound shark right there on the beach, and the photos of their fight going viral right now. Take a look. It's not that Jaws, but the jaws of sun lovers on a Nantucket beach that were suddenly dropping when they saw this man wrestling one of the most feared predators in the ocean.
I think people just kind of think I'm crazy. I mean, it seems wild running into the water and grabbing a shark by its tail.
On Sunday, Elliot Sudal, a 24-year-old self-proclaimed shark wrangler, made plenty of waves on this beach when he jumped into the ocean.
Okay. At this point, I want to pause because we did get new information from the text, which is the video, which said that this man is a self-proclaimed shark wrangler, and you can see that he's got a fishing pole. So I want to go ahead and revise my earlier prediction and say that he intentionally lured this shark onto the beach. And I am going to also predict at this point that this man is fine, and that he obviously won the fight with the shark because he doesn't appear from the video to be hurt. And it doesn't say anything. The title, The Man Wrestles Shark with Bare Hands, doesn't lead us to believe that he has gotten injured.
And pulled out a 200-pound, 7-foot-long sand shark with his bare hands. Earlier that day, he had reeled in half a bluefish and thought a shark had taken a bite, so he grabbed the opportunity to lure the shark back.
This particular shark took about 45 minutes to get in. That's when it gets really crazy, because you got to run in the surf, grab him by the tail, and drag him backwards. And they don't really like that.
He hangs on long enough for a quick picture before setting the shark free. The photos and video of Sudal and the shark have gone viral.
There was a big shark, and he's flailing around, and it was just sort of a, I guess, all-around exciting thing. There was 20 people there watching me, and everyone was like, you're crazy, man.
The East Coast is notorious for shark sightings, and this summer is no exception. Just last week, this woman, though fine now, was bitten by a shark off the coast of North Carolina. Sudal is not worried about that, however. He says nothing can stop him from doing it again.
It's been a blast. This has been pretty wild. Catching sharks is my favorite thing to do. Any big fish, really. It's just a big battle. It's so fun.
What does a shark do to you?
Has this split the desk?
Yes,
Can we all agree on something?
leave the shark alone.
Okay, so that's an example of how you can continually make predictions with a nonfiction text. And of course, in this case, the text was extremely short, so we were only able to pause one time. But with a longer text, you can pause many times. Now here's an example of what you might do with a fictional text. So for this one, there's not as much to preview, but up here the title is The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. It does have this little thing up here that we want to go ahead and preview. It says, from The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County and Other Sketches. 1867 by Mark Twain. Now, what I know about Mark Twain is that, well, he wrote really famous novels that were fiction, like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. So I'm guessing that this is a short story that he wrote, and that it probably is set in the South, even though I don't know where Calaveras County is. Judging from what I know about Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, there's probably some colloquialism or some language that is suited to the specific area in the South where the characters are from. So colloquialism in that it may be informal, conversational, and then maybe some dialect too, pertinent to that specific area. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that even though the text is small, this really isn't a very long story. Just skimming along here, I see words like frog, box, flies, coughing, sneezing. Those are things that are popping out to me. Now, because there is not much to preview, it is possible that our prediction could be way off base. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and say I think that, or I predict that maybe this story is about a frog in a county in the South called Calaveras County, and that this frog is a trickster frog. And maybe it leads us to some form of entertainment. The frog serves as entertainment. Maybe the frog hides in a box, and maybe he eats flies, which would make sense because all frogs eat flies. And I think that there's probably a twist, just because a story like this about a frog that's in a box wouldn't be very entertaining without a twist. And you know what, I'm really thinking that's about all that I can predict at this point. So what I would then do is I would go ahead and start to read the first paragraph, and then I would think, can I add anything to my prediction? Can I change it? Is anything about what I predicted wrong? And I would proceed that way throughout the story until I got to the end. And what predicting does for us is it keeps us engaged and active readers while we're going through a text, because if you don't do that, then you're going to end up spacing out. So that, in a nutshell, is predicting.